Hey guys, Ranger Georgia here with U.S. Fish and Wildlife in partnership with the city of Brownsville. We are here for the first ever virtual Junior Ranger Outdoor Adventure Program. What we're going to be doing this week is archery. So we're going to give you a little rundown as to what's going to happen throughout the week. Today, we're just going to give you a quick little history lesson, an archery 101, and the way I feel I shoot the best stance and shooting method. Then we're going to go ahead and have a little DIY section of how to build your own bow, how to build a backdrop, how to build a target, and a bow stand. So we'll have all that just for you in this week, and we're also going to show you a couple of games that you can play with your new equipment. Alright guys, so first things first, we're going to go with what we see as the most simple bow there is. Traditional, nothing fancy about it. You take away the string, and you got a stick. That's it. Very simple. So, the limb is going to be the top limb, you have the bottom limb, grip, and the nocking point. Then you got the string. Now, this is as close to it gets. And now the reason why we say 20,000 BC is because at that time, that's when we grew as a human race. That's when speech was developed. That's when fire came about. That's when also archery equipment was introduced. All right, so what we also have, we have a recurve bow. Now this came about a little bit after. What it does, has these curves over here, gives it that extra arm. So very simple, top limb, bottom limb, grip, nocking point, string. Then we go to what modern people use nowadays, very popular with everyone, compound bow. Now this is as advanced as it gets when it comes to archery. Yeah, we still have the crossbow, but a lot of people will argue it's not real. This is real archery. So with this, very basic, top limb, bottom limb, you have the arrow, rest, the sights, cables, cams. I mean, this thing is decked out. These are awesome. The arrows that we use, very simple. Now arrows can be made of wood, aluminum, fiberglass. This one is fiberglass, has a little bit of bend to it. So the arrow is going to have the tip, the shaft, the fletching, the knock. They're going to have two colors, two of the same, one off. The reason being tells you where to put your arrow. Now, if we're going to be shooting a compound bow, what you want is that odd color to land up right on top. That way you have the least interference. Now we're going to be shooting traditional recurve bows. It's a little different, exact same concept, the least interference. That's what you're going to want. So as I said, these arrows are made of different things, and same goes for the fletching. This one happens to be feather, and it is the best for traditional archers, just because even if it does touch, because it's going to, it goes with it. Absolutely fine. Now you have the majority modern arrows come with plastics, soft plastics, which are still good, but you'll see how it doesn't have that give. It's going to bend. Now this one happens to be a practice tip, and this is not going to be removable. This is meant just for practice. Different arrows that you'll be able to purchase. The majority of them, the tips are removable. This one is going to be a 100 grain broadhead. This is what you'd be using in a real life situation out hunting. Alright guys, so right now we're going to go over our stance. Now this is different for everybody. I'm going to give you the blanket amount of information, and you're going to have it, and you can adjust it to where it fits your style better. This is what works best for me. So in front of me on the floor I have a shooting line. In front of that shooting line will be the target. So I'm right-handed. I'm going to grab the bow with my left hand, and I'm going to go ahead and face to my right side with my bow in my left hand. My toes are pretty much, my left foot is on the shooting line, and if you notice my right foot is just slightly in front, kind of giving me that angle towards my target. Now with your feet, you do want them to be a good shoulder width apart. You want to have a nice steady stance. Now your knees, what a lot of people do is they want to lock them out. So you want to give them a slight bend, not too much, just stand regular at ease, you'll be just fine. So your hips, from your stomach to your chest, everything should be facing one way. Now, when you point, you want to grab it firmly with your left hand Every single bow has a nice little area where you can put it right on the grip to protect your hand. Your elbow should have a slight bend. If you lock it out, what's gonna happen is you're gonna have a nice bruise to remember that you shot incorrectly for about 2 weeks. That's the last thing we want. You wanna give it a slight bend, don't exaggerate it too much, just ever so slightly to where you know that string is not gonna hit. Your wrist shouldn't be broken. It always stays straight with a slight bend. Now, there's different ways we can grab it, the string. We have a nocking point on this one. I shoot split fingers, so that's 1 on top and 2 on bottom. Now, the area where you want to pull from is the fatty part of your fingers. Now, the reason why I call them the fatty part of your fingers, if you hold down your finger, you can notice the part that kind of hangs down, just like my belly, would be that fatty part of your finger, in between your first knocking knuckle and the tip of your fingers, where you want to be pulling from. When you pull back, every single time it should be the exact same. So what I do is I have a marking point. My anchor point is on my face. I use the inside of my lip. I pull back, my index finger on the inside of my lip. I relax, breathe in, let the shot go. Now there's a couple of ways that you can aim. Aiming is very different when it comes to archery. There's no sight on this. This is traditional, you're shooting a lot of instincts. And the problem with instinctive shooting is it just takes thousands of arrows. It takes practice at different ranges, different environments, at an incline, uphill. It just takes practice. It is probably one of the hardest methods, but if you get it down, when you're out in a real life situation, whether it be hunting, fishing, with using archery equipment, you're more in tune with Mother Nature. The other method of aiming would be more of a split vision. Now the split vision is where you're using your arrow as a marker to where you're gonna shoot. Now there is also gap shooting, which a lot of archers do, and that's knowing the gap. So that one's gonna take a lot of practice, but more so a lot of math. Guys and gals, if you're good at math, go ahead and use this one. So if I'm standing 10 yards away from my target, I know that when I pull back and I do 1 on top, split fingers, 1 on top, 2 on the bottom. A lot of gap shooters will do all 3 on the bottom. You're gonna pull back, and the very tip of your arrow now turned into your front sight. So the string is the only thing that's gonna help you. With your string, you're able to see left and right. Your string should line up with the arrow. Think of your string as a rear sight, the very tip is a front sight. And that's exactly how you're shooting, using a little bit of math. I know at 10 yards, I have to shoot about 12 inches below bullseye, and I'll be on point. The further I move back, the closer that gap closes. So if I'm at 30, 40 yards, you know, my arrow, the tip of my arrow is right on the bullseye, and that's gonna go ahead and have that arrow arch and hit its target. So I'm gonna show you a demonstration as to how that shot shows, so you can go ahead and practice it yourself. Alright guys, so I don't know if you noticed, but inside when I demonstrated your pull, I pulled back and I didn't have an arrow, and then I gently let it go forward. Now the reason why I let it go forward, controlling the string, is it's extremely dangerous for you to dry fire. Now dry firing means when you pull back without an arrow and you release. That's dangerous for both you and the bow itself. You can actually damage the limbs, split them. A lot of these bows are made off of different materials. You never want to split something and have it come into your eye. It's extremely dangerous, so I recommend that you never dry fire your bow under any conditions whatsoever. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and show you a shot where I let an arrow fly. That way you can see how my stance is and how I stay after the shot. That's probably the most thing that I emphasize on the most, is after your shot, you should stay still. Everything should be the exact same, so you know your shot is gonna be the exact same every single time. I'm gonna go ahead and knock my arrow with the green facing out like we were talking about, so I have the least amount of interference. I shoot split fingers, so 1 on top, 2 on the bottom. My stance, my feet are shoulder width apart, knees have a slight bend. Now when I pull back, I did say that I use the inside of my lip as my anchor point. It's gonna be there every single time. On a breathe in, once I breathe out is when that arrow flies, when I have no more breath inside my lungs. I like to do it on the exhale. So here we go. When you pull back, same thing.
Too easy.